Welcome, everyone. My name is Christine Brindza, and I am the Senior Curator and James and Louise Glasser Curator of Art at the American West at the Tucson Museum of Art. This is Cookies with the Curator, and today I am here with you with Marlowe Katoney, weaver, painter, artist extraordinaire. Hi, Marlowe, how are you?
Good, very good. Good morning.
We are so glad to have you here talking with us today about your artwork. And before you and I started recording, we were talking about our love of sweets. And, as this is the premise for this show, I wanted to share with you one of my favorite treats this time of year. It's entering fall, and I like to make homemade pumpkin chocolate chip cookies.
Oh,
And
yum. I love those too.
yeah, and you can even switch it out, and instead of having pumpkin, you could have yam or sweet potato, things like that. And so that's one of my favorites this time of year. How about you? What's your favorite sweet? What can you never refuse?
Cheesecake. I love cheesecake. My favorite is banana cream cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory. But of course, in little old Winslow, we don't have a cheesecake factory, so it's near impossible to get unless I'm in Phoenix.
Oh yeah, so it's a really special treat for you.
Yes, it's a very special treat for me. As a matter of fact, during the Herd Museum Marketplace, I will make a special trip to my favorite cheesecake factory is the one with a Chandler Fashion Center. So we'll drive all the way out there and we'll go to PF Chang's usually, and then we'll get some cheesecake there afterwards.
Oh, hey, I'd like to hop in the car with you next time you go, okay? Give me a
Yeah.
call. So now that we're dreaming of cheesecake, maybe we should talk a little bit about art. How about that? Little segue into art.
Sure. Or
Um,
maybe how sweets relate to art.
yeah, we can inspire your next weaving, right? So,
Yeah, you know what? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was gonna say, so you never know when things inspire you.
Yeah, well, through this whole COVID thing, it's been kind of crazy because for a while there, I couldn't get yarn. And finally, they opened up the reservation. I was able to get yarn. So I had all this paint and stuff that I've been wanting to use. And then right about that time, my mom caught it. I caught it. My brother caught it. But it was my niece who got it into our family. But we're all doing good. We all survived the COVID-19, but we couldn't go anywhere. So to keep myself busy, I started painting. And it was really hard to weave during that period of time because your mind's just not there. It's like,
Yeah,
and you're kind of weak. So it was easier for me to paint rather than to weave, just because when you're weaving, you're doing a lot of counting and measuring, and sometimes it just doesn't fit into your brains, or you don't really understand what you're doing. So I stopped weaving for a little bit, for a couple of months, because it took me a while to recover. But within that time period, I was painting, and I was surprised because I was painting every day. I was going back and forth between paintings, and I produced quite a bit of painting on birch and on um, some masonite. And I was satisfied with them. I was actually able to sell one to a couple in Birmingham, Alabama, who used to sit on the board of trustees there. So I was pretty happy. But through this whole pandemic epidemic type thing, I managed to use Facebook to sell work.
oh, okay. Well, first of all, I'm very glad to hear that you are on the mend and your family is on the mend. This must have been a huge ordeal for you. And so I'm just glad that you're seeing the other side of it, and that you have
Yeah,
and that you found artistic inspiration through it all.
yeah. It was. I haven't painted in a while, but when I used to paint, I used to have several paintings going on one time because I know that you have to have a kind of continuity, and your work to put together a body of work. And if you're not doing that, then a lot of your work is disjunct, and sometimes it's harder to piece them together in the show.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. So, Marlo, I was thinking about when you and I started to become acquainted, and it's been a few years. Um,
Uh-huh.
I think it was back when you had a work in the Arizona Biennial, and
Hmm.
we started to learn about your process in weaving and some of your artistic inspirations. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into weaving and how you, well, you were mentioning painting, how you got into painting?
Well, I got into painting. It's been a long story, because when I was in high school, or even before high school, in elementary school, my dad, he used to work for the Santa Fe Railway, and he was into drawing as a hobby. And so he would buy sketchbooks and Southwest art magazines and just art magazines in general. And he used to dabble in oil painting, but he used to get magazines, and then he used to start sketches, just copying pictures that he's seen in there, usually photographs. So he would start something, and then he would hand it down to me and say, finish it, and I want to see how it looks when I get back. So that's how I started my very early roots with art. But visually, I was always inspired or always drawn to art. And then my mom and my dad used to jog a lot out in the open in the desert. So what I would do is go out into the desert while they were jogging and roam around on the buttes and the little mesas, and I would just pick up rocks, look at certain formations, and that used to kind of inspire me. Or I used to look at art and see those things in them. Um, then um, when I got a little bit older, and I must have been in about the third, fourth, and fifth grade, I was in school, and people, I never seen it myself. I always thought my drawings weren't that great, but everybody used to say, "Oh, can you draw this for me? Can you draw that for me?" And they said, "You're going to be an artist someday." And I said, I don't know about that, because I just didn't feel like I was really good at doing art. Then I was introduced into origami by one of my literature teachers in elementary. So I really got into that. Then I would draw some of the origami that I used to make.
Oh,
And as time went on, I was more drawn into it. I used to pick up magazines, look at the art, and then I would watch Channel 8 and watch those programs that were based on art, and just listen to how these artists got their start. Still thinking that I wasn't going to become an artist, I got into junior high and wanted to become some sort of technician or something in the healthcare field, and that never panned out. But the whole time I kept making my art. Then it was my junior high art teacher and my elementary art teacher who took notice of my art, and they started collecting the art. Then gradually, as I got into high school, I started winning awards at the Heard Museum. And my senior year, um, I took the only silver ribbon that they had. I got a scholarship for the summer for NAU, and I took first place in sculpture, first place in painting, and first place in ceramic. So that year I cleaned house, and then they gave me a scholarship to go to the University of Arizona.
oh
I
my
mean, it wasn't a
gosh.
lot. It wasn't a lot, but that's what really inspired me to go into art. But the whole time I was painting, and I really used to look at the work of David Johns and Jack Jack Jean, and I didn't start looking at European painters until I got into college, and I got really inspired by their work as well. And then I took classes at the University of Arizona and figure drawing. I took that with artists like Peggy Dugan, and ceramics or three-dimensional design with Julie Areola. and I got really inspired, but I was trying to give myself a well-rounded um, repertoire in my artwork. And it did me good because I don't think you can really understand what I do unless you can really look into what it is to draw, what it is to paint, color theory, and then sculpture really helped because you can, when you're drawing or you're painting, you're pushing stuff back into space and pulling it forward, and that just gave my painting another dimension. But then I gave up art for a long time. Um, I would draw or do something doodle every once in a while. But I came home back to Winslow and I was working at the Indian Healthcare Center here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a stressful job. Um, most days I was really stressed out when I came home. And I was really on the verge of, I was already on the verge of quitting my job. But I think my grandma saw that, and she's a weaver and she's been doing that most of her life. Um, she's not with us anymore, but that's when she said, "You should learn how to weave." And I was like, okay. I wasn't real enthusiastic about it because I knew how hard it was and you have to have patience when you sit down at the loom, especially when you're learning a new technique. So we used to go and visit my grandma out on Sundays. And so one particular Sunday, we went out there and we were going to spend some time with her and cook with her and eat with her. And she already had a loom set up for me. And she let me take it home, and that's when I started my first weaving. But you know, it took me a while. That first rug, it wasn't very big; it was very small. It took me about 9 months to complete. But
Oh, do you still have it?
no, my cousin bought it for me.
Oh,
My
okay.
cousin bought it for me. But it all took off from there. It was like maybe another 2 years before I actually really sat down at the loom and was determined to learn it. And I started with R.B. Burnham Trading Company, and we did the rug auctions. And my first roundabout, I think I had like 4 rugs, and they all sold. So I was pretty happy about that. But the rest is history. Then I started getting to challenging myself with more complex weavings, like figure drawing, or uh, pictorial weavings. But I was really interested in challenging myself to do more realistic figure drawing and paying attention to anatomy, cloth, texture, and combining colors in different ways to get it to look three-dimensional.
Okay, so you were using your expertise as a painter on a loom.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Then I was, but I can't, I don't always do those types of weaving. I like to do traditional weaving as well. Right now I'm working on a raised outline, and learning those techniques inform what you're doing currently. Then you learn how to combine all the different types of design, and it gives a wonderful texture, even a narrative to your work.
Oh, okay. Wow. So what is your creative process like?
It all depends. Sometimes I will start with a sketch, and sometimes I will I'll start with color. Usually with color, because color really sets the mood, and you have to really consider that before you start doing your sketching. Right now, I'm waiting for certain parts of the reservation to open on the weekend so I can go out to the reservation yarn shops and see what I can find. Um, but I'll have to tell you, I'm a yarn junkie. I had
Uh,
R.B. Burnham Trading Company. They were telling me that they were running out of a particular yarn, and they said, "Well, you better get some before we run out, because we'll be getting some, but it's not going to be the same." So I bought all of it. And my mom's upset with me because I put them all in her closet, and they're like big, huge bags of yarn.
oh, but you'll use
Yeah.
it, you know.
Oh, yeah, I'll use it. I'm definitely going to use it. Then I have 2 more bags that are of a different type of yarn, but yeah. And then I use up all my scrap as well.
Okay, so you purchase your yarn rather than the traditional way of, getting it off of the
Yeah,
sheep and yeah.
the only reason why I do that is on any particular rug at any one time, if you look at it, you'll see that I use between 25 and 45 different colors. And I try to incorporate that all into the rug. So it's not just like 5 colors or 7 colors or 10 colors. I really try to give it a variety, and it allows me to do certain things like combine the colors to get a blending. And if you notice the rug that's in the Tucson Museum of Art collection,
Mm-hmm.
garden ornaments, I combine different sizes of yarns to get a blending in the piece. And so that's how I did the ground floor under the cornstalk with the squash. And then you see how I faded some of the leaves of the squash plant out, but the squash blossoms pop out at the bottom. Then the cornstalk has a blend of colors, so it doesn't look flat as it's going up. But that's very useful when you're wanting to make the leaves bend in space. And then you have the clouds up on top that really, I wanted that to reflect what was in the cornstalk itself. But
Okay, so let's pull up your image
okay,
so that we can look at what you're talking about. Just a moment.
yeah, and behind the cornstalk itself, the eye dazzler and behind the cornstalk makes it pop out. And then I use chief blanket elements in the piece. And then the clouds, how they're undulating on the top around the sun with the butterfly, I wanted that to reflect what was on the ground.
Okay, so as a Diné or Navajo paint weaver, you're taking these elements of traditional rugs and incorporating them into one contemporary pictorial piece. Is that a good way of assessing it, or?
Yes, yeah, that's exactly what I was doing.
Okay.
But I wanted to do it in such a way where it wasn't too broken up, and then um, it's it's cohesive from top to bottom. Um, Sometimes I've seen older rugs, they'll break it into 4 pieces. So you'll have what's like a sampler, and there's like different designs in each vignette. Whereas here, I wanted to all blend together. And it's part of it is working the color and carrying the color into different areas. Like if you see the squash blossoms at the bottom, you see the yellow light in the middle, and then you see the sun at the top.
I see. Okay. So this piece probably took you a long time to make. Um, and this is often a question we have asked of artists. I know it's not fair, but how long would a piece like this take you to make?
I think this one almost took me a year,
Almost a
and
year.
almost a year, but it was mainly because of the color blending in the bottom and in the corn stalk. And then if something doesn't work, then I'll definitely take it out. But just under the sun face, underneath, you see all the little dots?
Yeah.
Okay, that was very tedious and time consuming. But as I got closer to the top, it got easier.
Okay. I see all the, pictorial elements here, the birds, the butterfly, the squash blossoms, but then you have these more traditional elements like I, the eye dazzler, obviously. You can't miss that, right? Dazzles the eyes. But you also have the cross shape or the Spider Woman. And from what I understand in our previous conversations, you don't use that cross as a traditional form for yourself. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I I guess you can't, I don't know. It's really hard to address that because when I'm doing traditional type work, or I am doing a Chief's blanket, I'll definitely use that. And it is a type of traditional designs. But here I wanted it to represent, I guess you could say stars.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never really thought of them as Spider-Woman crosses. I've always thought of them as stars.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. And you have the birds, and that reminds me of the piece that you had created a few years ago that was a bit of a hit at the Herd, which was the Angry Birds weaving that
Oh,
you had done.
yes. Hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that piece?
You know what? First of all, that rug got me more mileage out of all my rugs put together because it's still traveling and being shown all over the place, and it's being included in publications and books. Um, but I was just amazed. I think it's traveling right now too, if I heard correctly. Um, but yeah, it was shown everywhere.
This
It's probably my favorite piece.
Oh, well, I like it a lot too. But this work that we have in the Tucson Museum of Art is extra special because it was a piece that was donated by James and Louise Glasser. And from what I recall, the Western Art Patrons group at the Tucson Museum of Art, had come to visit you up in Winslow while we were on a trip through the Four Corners. And you spoke to our group. And I believe from there, it created this wonderful relationship that we were able to get this piece donated for the collection. So I do remember that trip fondly. And, you know, just looking at the elegance of this piece, that it has these painterly qualities, it has the multi-layerings of these elements. We're just so pleased to have this in the collection.
Yeah, I'm pleased I went to the Tucson Museum of Art as well. If they hadn't commissioned me to do this piece, then I I wouldn't have been inspired to do this piece. Um, and when I had talked to James and Louise, I think they were a little scared I wasn't going to be able to get it done in time. Then I started showing them little pieces of the work, and they said, "Oh wow, we love it." Then I think they were completely overwhelmed when they had seen it in person.
Oh yeah, it is quite the piece in person. Which reminds me, before we get off of this image, can you tell us a little bit about your signature of your weavings that you put in the corner?
Oh, the signature in my weaving. In the past, artists, I guess you could say, until just recently, didn't sign their weavings, and so they would put other things in the rug that weren't very noticeable. But I this particular signature, I thought about it for a while, and it's a box with a slash through it, and that was really something I wanted to incorporate in my rug because it, for me, that symbol symbolizes the past, traditional, and the contemporary, and the slash going through the middle is what I want my work to represent. So I use elements of tradition in my work and reinvent it into the contemporary.
Yeah.
But it's funny though. We have a neighbor who's Chinese, of Chinese descent, and she goes to China every now and then. And she goes, "That's a Chinese symbol." I said, "Yeah, I think I've seen it around for a while." She goes, "What does it mean to you?" I said, "It means being in the, for me, it means being in the middle." She goes, "That's exactly right." She goes, "Do you know what that symbol means?" She says, "It's called Zheng. It means Middle Kingdom."
Oh,
In
how about that?
yeah, in Chinese calligraphy.
Wow, it's almost like things come full circle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything you want to mention about this piece before we move on?
Um, no, well, maybe I would mention in the foreground, under the leaves and under the flowers. I don't know if the viewers can see it, but I use a hatching technique to make the ground fall back into space in the back. And then I have a layering of certain elements like the smaller squash in the front. Then as that moves out into the back, if you notice, like right under the bottom leaves of the corn stalk, I have shadows of vines coming out. And that's just to represent vegetation sometimes that you see in gardens. But I didn't want them to make them so noticeable that it appeared in pushed forward into the foreground. But I wanted to shade that part out. But that was a different technique I used this time.
Oh,
And
wow.
I think I'll probably do it again, but I want to try it with figures.
Okay, you really are bringing in these painter qualities into this work with the dimension that you're bringing.
Yeah, and some of my other work, you may have seen some of them with. Um, there's a painting that was at the Biennial, and um, the dancer had his leg extended out, and he was dancing. But I've never seen a weaver do it before, but I was incorporating foreshortening in the work, and you don't see that. So you see the figure falling back into space, but you see the foot come forward.
Oh, yes. Okay. I do recall the piece. Yeah, that was quite amazing.
And I've been trying to figure out another piece that I can do like that. Um, I did one piece that I really enjoyed that I did recently was for the Heard Museum, and it was a vase of flowers. And I wish I knew how to share that picture. Um, but Vase of Flowers, it's actually in this magazine. And I have several copies, but let me see if I can get it because I actually have an advertisement in there.
Sure. So the magazine you just shown is First American Art, and your work is on the cover. So congratulations.
Yeah, that's the one that was shown as part of the recent exhibit that they had. If you
Right.
recall,
It was in the Western Sublime
yes.
at the Tucson Museum of Art.
I don't know if you can see it too good, but this is Vase of Flowers.
Oh my goodness. The dimension that you add. Wow. Just, I'm sure that this was quite an undertaking to do.
Yeah, it did. One of the processes I use is I call it ply splitting. So I have to search for the yarn because it's not always available, but I will start blending the colors ahead of time, and that'll take me about 2 weeks. And sometimes I don't always use it, and sometimes I have to sit down and redo it again to get the colors that I need. And that gives me almost a realistic quality or the dimensions of something that's three-dimensional. I like
Oh.
with the eyes. And then the flowers themselves, um, it's part abstract and part still life. But it was more or less to represent my two grandmothers who passed away. Um, my grandma used to buy these scarves. Let me see if I can get one.
I like this show and tell.
Yes.
And a lot of your inspiration is from your grandmothers, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, my old Navajo ladies, they like to wear these scarves that have the flowers on them.
Okay.
And both of my grandmas used to have scarves like that. And so when my paternal grandma passed away, I got to inherit this scarf from her. And so when I was working on the vase of flowers, I wanted to incorporate those flowers, the roses, into that piece. And then I have two stems of roses rising above the vase, and that was supposed to represent their passing. Then you have the eyes up at the top. You have an older eye and you have a young eye, but that was supposed to represent the passage of time.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was definitely one of my favorite works that I worked on. And then the bright yellow really makes the base pop forward. But I was really thinking Van Gogh when I was working on that piece.
Oh, okay. So you're extending your inspirations to artists like Vincent van Gogh. I
Hmm.
like it.
Yeah. But I do have other inspirations. I can't say that I dislike this artist or I dislike that artist, because I think there's a quality in art itself that contributes to humanity.
Yeah, I understand that. It's a global thing. It's not just one region or one culture. It's finding connections everywhere.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So, can you tell me a little bit about your recent projects or things that you're hoping to work on?
Um, I painting was what I was working on. Right now, I have a very large rug on the loom. And like I said, we're in the process of moving stuff around the house. So it's been kind of crazy around here. And this loom works I've been working on are paintings, and these aren't done.
But if
Let's
you want to
see.
give us a little peek, that would always be fun. I feel like we are with you checking out everything. Oh, I see. There's your symbol you had just spoken of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is one that I was experimenting with.
Okay.
I just poured the gesso straight on the board, and it gave a nice texture over the top. But I'm gonna rework some of the white areas, but it's I really enjoy layering paint. You get a really rich quality out of it.
Nice.
Nice. So that's what I have in the house, and I have some that are wrapped up in the back of the house, and then I have some in the garage. But I've been doing a lot of painting as well.
Okay. But you're still dabbling with the weaving when the
Yeah,
moment comes. Yes.
yeah, definitely. And then I have a smaller one on the loom, but my room's a mess, so I don't want to take the
That's
camera.
okay. We'll wait in anticipation.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there anything else you would like to tell us about your work or just anything?
Um, well, I'm going to have another interview coming up with a School for Advanced Research, and that's going to be on the 12th. And then, let's see, what else do I have coming up? I think by January, I'm going to be applying for another artist in residency, but it's only for a month. So I'm not sure how much work I can get done for that, but it's up in Wyoming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Wyoming, it's beautiful country. I hope you get it.
Yeah, I've been there before, but it's very remote.
Yes. Is it the U Cross?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah,
Yes.
wonderful organization. Yes. And so is School for Advanced Research. I'm glad that they are interviewing you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty fun because I knew most of the people there. Um, School for Advanced Research was one of the best programs I had done. I mean, I haven't done many, but I met a lot of people across the board who were into different fields of usually writing. I was the only artist there at the time, but I really got to know a lot of people in different places, and we hung out, and they all had books that came out. So, but I keep in touch. Facebook.
Facebook does wonders.
Yes, it does.
Well, Marlowe, it has been a pleasure talking with you today. And you definitely have me craving cheesecake.
Yeah.
Um, and I love to get the little sneak peek of your work and things that you've been working on, as well as talking about your weaving. So it has definitely been a pleasure. And I am so glad again that you and your family are doing well and that you are just continuing on with your artistic inspirations.
Well, thank you. And the pleasure was all mine. I always enjoy connecting with people, um, especially at a time like this when everybody is just trying to stay home and stay safe. But when you can correspond with people and you can put a face to the voice, that's always really nice as well.
I agree. I agree. Okay, well, this is another Cookies with the Curator with Christine Brindza and my guest today, Marlowe Katoney. All right, thank you.
Thank you.